Hi, beautiful people. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to our event today with Claire Marie Stancek for her new collection of poems, Word. Joining her are Dan Beachy-Quick and Jennifer Firestone. My name is Evan Karp. I am the events manager for Booksmith. We're an independent bookstore and a mainstay of San Francisco's Haight-Ashbury district since 1976. I'm going to briefly introduce each poet, and then I will get and try to stay out of the way. Dan Beachy-Quick is a poet, essayist, and translator. His most recent books include Arrows from Tupelo Press and Stone Garland from Milkweed Editions, a collection of translations from the ancient Greek. Recently longlisted for the National Book Award in Poetry, his work has been supported by the Montfort, Lannan, and Guggenheim Foundations. He teaches at Colorado State University, where he is a University Distinguished Teaching Scholar. Jennifer Firestone is the author of 5 books of poetry: Story from Ugly Duckling Press, 10 from Blazebox, Gates and Fields from Belladonna Collaborative, Flashes from Shearsman Books, and Holiday, also from Shearsman. She's currently collaborating with Marcella Durand on a book about feminist avant-garde poetics. Firestone is an associate professor of literary studies at the New School's Eugene Lang College and is also the director of their Academic Fellows Pedagogy program. In addition to Word, Claire Marie Stancek is the author of 2 previous poetry books, Oil Spell from Omnidon and Mouths from Nomi Press. She earned a PhD in English literature from University of California, Berkeley, where she currently works as a staff writer. With Jane Gregory and Lynn Haginian, she co-edits Nyan Editions, a chapbook press. Originally from outside Toronto, Ontario, she now lives in Oakland, California. I think that's it from me. Thank you all again so much for joining us. And Claire, congratulations on your book. Dan and Jennifer, thank you so much for being here. I'll turn it over to you guys now.
Thanks, Evan, and congratulations, Claire. I'm so happy this book is in the world, and you can see behind me that this is the normal chaos of our COVID life. Christy wants to listen to everyone give a reading, but our internet's so iffy that we're scared to put on another device. So Christy and my dog Carlo are joining me in this room. The kids might come to just prepare yourself. And it's really nice to meet you, Jennifer. I'm just going to read for a little while from a new book of poems called Arrows. And I'm just going to read from one section that is poems that are working around certain issues in religion and stories out of the Bible and elsewhere, and ideas concerning prayer of various kinds, since we seem to be in that season. And I'll kind of intersperse just a couple of poems from this book of translations that has just come out from the ancient Greek. And I've really had this poet Theognis on my mind, who wrote poems that seem to record a life that began in kind of tremendous privilege and the particular forms of moral propriety incumbent upon that position. And something happened where that entire fortune went away, and the man is trying to live in some sense by a code that he no longer belongs to. And there's something of that bitterness and strangeness and nostalgia for the way life had been that reminds me of our time too. Psalm. I keep dear in my heart, forgive the ancient fold. I keep the woods there too. Oh, altar that wanders away from prayer, keep no thing blank in this highest praise. Deer drink water out, their hooves cloven print. And in an odd similarity of last line from Theognis. Worst of all is when poverty breaks a good man. Worse than gray old age, searness, worse than cough and tremor. Better to escape, throw yourself off the cliffs to the monsters in the wild sea, searness, into those haunted depths. When poverty makes a man her bride, bridles him, what can be said is sacrificed, hooves step on tongues. This next poem is pondering a biblical tale of Isaac following Abraham up the mountain that has always been on my mind from strange things one learns about it from various sources, including that Isaac wasn't a child, but was a 40-year-old man when he went up the mountain and knew full well, I suppose, why he was carrying the wood on his back. And Sir Thomas Browne in Urn Burial, noting that though Patroclus and Hercules had pyres larger than cities to burn their bodies away after death, that Isaac reminds us that a man can carry on his own back his own pyre. Ode on the Mountain. Caught in the thought-tangled thicket, the ram by its horn grows weary. How begin to die? A child, no longer a child, asks his question to the stone he sat on waiting. He throws in time, he throws in the wary mind grown weary. Watchfulness has its weight. Astonishment's patience dulls into fact, sourceless and tame. Wonder followed by a shadow called shame. What first stuns later causes sleep. The sun, the absent sun, at the end of the equation, the sum. How begin to add it up? A man, only a man says, age overcame me, not as hound, a hind, not as fear, the eye, but as a sparrow overcomes a crumb, or as a sparrow settles on the egg she broods, the answer feels larger than the question. Look down. Those ashes are my shadow left on the stone where I did not exactly sleep. All those centuries I thought the work required needs only these few years, gentle drift of pronouns, each into each, where gradually I wake to the question, how was the night? And say, it dreamed. It dreamed. And the next day it went to work. It fed the children and it read a book. At night, it watched its face without a look in the mirror. Some vision harms the eye that sees it. Some song hurts the ears. Out the rags of the clouds, was it a voice spoke those red words? Behold, it said, take who you love most and go, it said, to the mountains. I carry now what I carried then, some rope, a bunch of sticks tied to my back. A body can bear wood enough for the fire that consumes it. Not much is needed, just a hand, just a spark. Then I carried what I carry now. Now it can't be seen, the wood. Now the wood's invisible, the rope, a thin line coiled around the mind to hold together what falls apart. Thought, I thought, and throat, and some heart loose and astray that wants to, but cannot mend its ways, its prayer. Bind me tighter, be violent, give repair. From Theognis. That this thing will never be, you must not make your oath. The gods get wrathful rightly, and what happens belongs to them. What's more, what doesn't occur is theirs. And from evil, good is born, from good, evil. And also the poor man so quickly becomes rich, and the man who has gained much wealth in a single night is suddenly destroyed. Sane minds fall apart. Fame often speaks glory to fools, and a bad man puts on his ill-gotten cloak of honor. And I'll just read one more poem, I think, and one more translation. And this is titled Prayer, and it ends awkwardly in just grammar marks. I don't know, I'll perform those like a dance, I guess, or I'll just pronounce their names so that you don't have to suffer my interpretive dancing of grammar. I'm very good at other kinds of interpretive dancing. And this begins with a line from Leibniz, Prayer. Not only pains and effort, but also prayers, also prayer work, and dull muscle ache of lifting worry into world and world into point, but also density that makes ideas surrender to limit and limit sorrows, limit keens, limit wants the stars and burlap sack seized and wants a stick to drag across the dirt, a line. Maybe I've forgotten the right way to talk. Inside my head, like a lion, the concept prowls, hungering after edges that can't be found. Edge fury might find dirt's underside or sky's ground, sedge grass into nothing bound that leapt over, leapt across, that driven hunger mad by tooth-blind need, the lion leaps and leaping becomes the sparrow it chased from the weeds. This thought of the other world, put it away in the drawer. Maybe in the dark it will grow acheless, like the moon. I want to say acheless like the moon. And then I remember the moon is what teaches us aching. Coin, bright thief who cannot steal herself away from her condition, pulling tides around her shoulders, but the aqueous shawl shatters when lifted. Only when it's fallen is it whole. Faith floods the little room where I practice faith. Time cannot save this thought, airless tending. God heard each prayer before the praying spoke urgent in collapse. Mind's diamond mine gives coal and pressure, counsels patience. The prayer answers itself, a single atom forever with the fruit in his mouth. Not swallowed, not sparrowed, not thrushed, not warbled, ongoing instant where song need not catch up to the fact already of being sung, 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 as the moon by the earth for eternity has been spun, past perfect, tense needless of belief. It has been all of it as it has been. I am that I am, logic of the ceaseless orbit, lion that learns to devour itself, mind that learns to think. Prayer predicts pain, so pain predicts prayer. Maybe I forgot the grammar that's right. I mean, just a poem only of marks that remind the mind, breathe here and here, breathe here and here. Page missing words like room missing walls, like field missing grass, like a simile, all by itself saying as its prayer, as is, deafen the echo that might say azaleas. No one is saying that word here, azaleas. No one says nightshade, bindweed, mandrake, nettle, forget-me-not, morning glory. No one says nothing. This field, plate by plate, unbinds tendril from trellis, petal from light, root from stone, eye from sight, silence. Give each word fair warning. The prayer is about to begin. Quote, comma, semicolon, comma, period, close quote. I'm going to end with a poem I've come to, I don't know, for the last year, love most of all by the most ancient of the poets I translated, Alkman, who was freed from his servitude for singing beautiful songs. Songs he said he learned from the partridges and doves. They are sleeping, mountain heads, headlands, and the gullies too. The fallen leaves and the tribe of slow-footed creatures, the dark earth grows. Beasts of prey, mountain bred, and brood of wild bees, and the brute monsters deep in the deep purple seas. And that flock of omen-giving birds long-winged, they are sleeping too. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. That was great, Dan. It's so great to hear you read. And congratulations, Claire. The book is gorgeous, and I'm so glad that it's out in the world. So congrats. I'm going to try something where I'm going to read something that I haven't read before in a public way. So we'll see how it goes, right? This is an excerpt from, I believe it's going to be a pretty long prose poem. So it's called Adrift, but Moving with the Consequences of a Heavy Heart. So I'll read a little bit. The poem is not natural. The man whom you occasioned as family head is demure in his hospital bed with a growing in mustache you call Dali-esque. You think of ways to get the blinds to unravel, not magically, but by your own hands, yet you need permission to do so. If you ask bluntly, you would look like you were trying to change the room, which you are, since hospital rooms need invention intermittently or they remain silvery cotton. How to present the unnatural as natural. So you suggest that the trees silhouetted in the landscape are eucalyptus, but when you are both positioned in slim chairs and you pull the cord and the blinds lift, you know you are wrong. I don't know trees, he says, and your fingertips flip through a Rolodex of words, trying to trace the species as if it will land you both into a meadow where the sky opens up and a warm ray yellows. You stare at the tops of the nameless branches, look at their tufts as wiry green hats, and think, what geometric shape shares most affinity with this perspective? His eyes have concaved into small waterfalls flowing forward. Is he sleeping? No, he's awake. There's a Boston dirty cop show on TV and a line of squat ginger ales. I'm offended by my own portraiture, yearning to create candied Cornell boxes where each part corresponds in ways to the brain's mechanics. No, I won't be simple. At night, it's chilled wine or French seltzer, something that makes the body vibrational and cues us to a change in temporality. The ritual of flattening a hand over quilts and smoothing pillows, the hot teeth of the shower grating over the particles of skin, the leather couch on a moist body, the faux fur, a campy painting with a flower in hair. Say thank you. It means a lot. The staff swear he's the best patient, hospitable, related to hospital. One dictates to the other how to behave. There's a certain protocol, but it's broken. You talk about movies, kids, and hear how he dishes them allowance. When the cells begin to become unfrozen, they will hopefully do their work, blasting the growth into smatterings like 4th of July spectacle. We evaluate progress of this through high fevers, nausea, and when his hand begins to tremble and speech slurs, neurotoxicity has been reached. What is natural about science, except our bent to understand, inquire, experiment? To say this is radical treatment is not nearly transposing the smoky removal of cells from its frozen vacuum. The staff wishes him happy birthday as they do all transplants, a cupcake with a cumulus frosting placed on the tray. The camel color chair slips into sleep mode. There is what they call the learning curve, the shock of departure from habit and safety. You pull over and a deer is dead, or you win a prize, the judge announcing what appears to be your name. When the hermit shook its shell loose, was it liberating or pure horror? All the hoarded sediment streaming upward, dispersing, integrating with other sands. You always thought of your body as an aquarium, that the bones, ligaments, tissues, fats, and cells were swimming. Another shock is the true violet of this lilac tree. There is a napkin folded and you unfold it. That is etiquette. Or a waiting room with a loyalty to its title, offensively transparent, barely a piece of art, most likely ocean or flowers, the neutrality of walls and furniture, an aquarium of toast. One woman on a treadmill, a robe flapping with blue tiny dots, her breathing rasps the windows, the divider or sectional importing its purpose, but we see it. Despite irrationality, deviation, incongruity, still obedient silence. You shuffle to the right to let a passerby avoid you. You buy a lukewarm chicken soup and a banana. The cafe lines are full. Performance is staged, bets procreating, and yet to string a language made of cells, inorganically fluttering. Nobody wants you to be there. Not you, not she. Recovering from surgery next door, he wears handcuffs, which blooms narratives. A guard guards his door. She is looking to date, sneakers amid a billowed uniform. If there is decline, it means the cells are attacking his tumors, and so counterintuitively, this we desire. His own cells modify to destroy the foreign cells, which are also his own cells. Nobody wants to be there, but to air it is broken. Washing the teeth, your mouth of bone supports standards. The snip of his words can be built upon day to day, and suddenly you think you have a picture. Naturalizing has produced the tolerance and obedience, so the machine will only run once you switch it. Though without uproar, what will it cost? You look and you bang your view into a window with a looker not looking, just a pane of glass and a cream shade secured over it. The poem believes water is buoying you against your odds. It's also obviously an amorphous cloak. In a film, the ocean might be pure beauty, a sparkling lens, but you have heard its drowning voice. The back will break of it, the vertebrae, words, shards of enamel. Reconsider the lament, grief, elegy, the forlorn as entrance and form, a sandbag to soak up water, which can't become a live seal no matter how much you squint. Cutting its belly and your hand sticks in the first drag of cigarette, though you understand the fate of this behavior. The poem can't carry it. And why would you want it to make legible that which is incomprehensible to your own neurons, selling ideas or selling? When you look at someone on the outside and their illness isn't easily recovered, who knew that the bird was sick until you saw its body origami on the sidewalk, where you said, I know that bird, though you didn't, or how could you? And is it that bird? The movement of chair around a bed enables different relations to proximity of intimacy, the ritual of clean water, a clean tray, though the conversation placid, dovetailing the obvious and therefore explicitly obvious. What does it mean when the water runs from your body? I mean, tears. When he wants to cry, he usually laughs, a nervous reflex. She holds on to a wall. Tears are considered a breaking in the room, a splattering of translucent silver. Mostly you read books. The frame appears propped on your lap, but really you are hoisted behind its wall. Long strings of characters, one winds into the other, turn the page. A certain amount of strings can equate to minutes. Mathematics, the small beach town, and the goat farm where you can purchase the Mondrian wheel of goat cheese with pressed purple and yellow pansies delicately around its rim. The kids show you how to feed the goat, the plants. We see the bull. The water, surrounded by cliffs, is too beautiful for a penetrating observation, as if we became flushed with all this beauty that it rises over or through or pours like sweating salt. Some places are a postcard or perhaps have been imprinted on so many times you don't know where you are. What if there's a whale? The inside of outside is abstractly sneaky. The paint rises in, curls, clips. What I see is a cake box. I see bubbles or maybe balloons or just distance, the not seeing and trying to see. I know here is supposedly heavenly. The word picnic sails forward as that is now what we pair with beach. From there, we can get blanket and baguette, goblet. Will you walk into it and feel its promises, or a waiting room of fear inhibits your chest frame? Who is to say its artifice to escape, to be a dullard and rub your elbows in gravel, wet the buttercup to your nose? I'll stop there. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much for both of these incredible readings, Jennifer and Dan. I am so honored to have the chance to read with both of you today. And I want to thank you all for being here. I'm truly brimming with gratitude today. This book is the product of a lot of care, and I want to acknowledge the immense role that Rusty Morrison played in editing this text. I feel very lucky to work with her and also with all of the incredible people at Almiron, so thank you. I'm gonna read from my book, Weird Bird or Word Bird, today in honor of its birthday. So I should mention that there are a few visual elements that don't translate well into reading, and I'm not gonna try to translate them, but I just want you to know that they're there. One of them is that on some of the pages at the bottom of the page, there's one or more variants listed, set off in square brackets, like the title of the book. And these are variants for words in the poems or in the fragments. I'm not going to read them, but I wanted to note that they're there. And there are also some grainy photographs, almost all of which I took with my cell phone camera, and I'm not going to show those either. So I'm going to just read selections. I thought I would kind of run through the whole book from the beginning to the end, and just read kind of bits and pieces throughout. I slept with my book open, woke into strange thoughts, pen in hand. Hildegard of Bingen writes frequently of green vigor, or in her Latin, viriditas. Maybe it's the green that blurs, that makes this phrase difficult for me to grasp. I open my fingers. All that's left is a crushed stem, wet sunlight. Oh, green vigor of the sweet apple. Green moves liquidly from noun to adjective, to adverb, to verb, washing through parts of speech, all and none, the way the waves of the sea move, most green under a cloud-filled or darkening sky. Bruce R. Smith writes, "Green upsets syntax because it upsets any easy relationship between subject and object. O green vigor within me." For Hildegard, words could be of sound or of flame or of vapor, of mud or limb or stone. She writes, "For I am not taught in this vision to write as the philosophers write. And the words in this vision are not like those which sound from the mouth of man, but like a trembling flame, or like a cloud stirred by the clear air." In Another Country and a Later Century, Andrew Marvell would describe the solitary mind in its fantasy garden, annihilating all that's made to a green thought in a green shade. What sounds are a dream made in the weird night awash with wailing? What is a green thought? Dull, blunt need for you, O green vigor of the hand of God. And our song comes on despite the turn back, empty time into my emptying hands, green gray, into gray green, bounded we rush. Time's track, unwelcome future detain me, a wanderer in death's ravishment. Abounding, wade into an emptier version, ever unmaking drain, cerulean beam, electric gleam. Her eyes seized mine as she biked by, no hands, in loose, relaxed posture. All week I walked past 2 dead sparrows on the ledge outside the library window. Then you left and all the spirits with you. Whose soul were words, a call, doorway, brightness, strength. A moist greenness, sacred, though entreat your mixed greenness, through own into vigor and the like to sound. All the indifferent, all that is of you, woman, all by when wonderful raise the wrought God, the by, fall by, and by of mystery, your flesh so long is things. By as though, and so I entreat you, you of power, a green took passive of past, and moist word, imagination as the not rhetorical correspondent. In the world, by breaking she from soul to metaphors forth until heart, sacred, intoxicating, and creation honeycomb, sweet. Sound, simultaneity, body, a word, seek, swirl, sensation, fire, with stone. The thing by these concludes palpable, and was truth, resounds, word honey, red burning. Her starry God there, no womb, sweet letter limbs, with spirit enchantment, though an angel fall upon your heart. Where? Here. In the eavesdropping night, the word where jolted through me, sounded like Claire. And I saw an ungainly pigeon flap from railing to railing, the white undersides of its wings looking somehow festive, as though it were the one creature left over after everything, and it couldn't help but enjoy the eerie emptiness. The moon is gone from my little patch of window, moved on to other parts of the sky, but I remember it as it was, pale as a vapor. Are we not spirits who would come back, if given the choice, between paradise and this palpable realm, again and again clothe ourselves in flesh, make heavy our limbs, sit wet, abundant, and wretched in this bodily mass, this clay? And in pain would we not come back, and in pain? Evening windows, lights inside turn back, superimposed over outside. Drapes muffle the winter door. When snow melts in the city, layers of sedimented cigarettes are released, go flowing down the street in streams. and I saw a bird carcass, part digested, its delicate skeleton gleaming, its tail feathers still attached to the bones, strewn out long and damp. Sadness today is a physical thing, pressing in my throat. Spring changes the air, disattaches sadness from flanks of ice, makes emotion loose and frantic. The smashed glass seems actually to tremble, but in fact, it's the sky that's shaking, the sky that's falling apart. Smit with the love of sacred song, though born in times too late and times too ill, still we gape along Milton's besotted speaker, himself too late. The word arose in my mind, unconnected but wheeling as though in orbit. Moon watcher. Where are you? In a vision, Hildegard of Bingen hears the voice of her mother saying, "You have been granted wings." And so Hildegard picks up her wings from the ground and flies away over the worms, scorpions, vipers, and hissing reptiles. I saw my mother that night inexplicably while falling asleep. Time folds back on itself like an elliptical band, and year doubling now, this year returns. As seasons return, so too returns the fading sheen, laptop screen on a night window where the reflective city looks both out and in. After you died, I couldn't write anymore. My nights wind-filled dreams rushed through me, but no thought would stay. I was a mere image of myself. I was a questionable shape. After 7 nights, I opened my notebook to the last thing I had written. I saw the words, "After all, it is the body that writes. Sometimes it can write and sometimes it cannot." That would have been the day you died. I want to believe that it was your spirit beside me guiding my hands still warm. But in fact, it was just another aberration on time's surface. For each of the 3 days before you died, the only entry in your notebook was the same single word in capital letters, pain. I don't believe in Satan exactly, but on the stairs half turned away, a shining shape. Those grim fires gone dancing across time into the dead city. Hildegard often concludes her writings with a spell, not to infuse her words with life, which they already have, but to awaken her reader to what has been breathing corporeal on the page. May whoever sees with watchful eyes or hears with echoing ears offer a kiss and an embrace to these my mystical words, which are uttered by me, the living one. That's Hildegard speaking. And a burst cloud of birds gusted upwards, outwards, inwards, and outwards again, intermoving in indescribable shape, unshaping. All the birds were stone gray but one, which was a soft spackled brown and white, like an eggshell. And I heard a rush of sound, like what Hildegard calls the soul, or that which fills the body with life and brings forth the senses. And I saw, like Hildegard, a flame the color of air. It was air. Sophie has joined us. I woke at 4 and believed that all of my thoughts were little bloody teeth. So I tried to collect them in my fingers as the first pre-dawn expectation lightened the window from gray to lighter gray. What I wrote with hands trembling is now illegible, except one fragmented passage about the sea of sleeping, lapping the edge of the sea of waking, 2 chaoses without shore. I wrote lying down, my book on my chest in the dark, and as I watched the shade of my own hand faltering across the page, myself somehow wrenched out of myself. I no longer knew my own body, and I had the feverish conviction that something aside from or outside of my mind compelled the pen. Do we resent our permeability? You loved me best in dreams, a resting tank on the cargo train, everything empty, everything all the time, among the violences of our love. When traveling alone, one joins stranger families or the families of strangers, permeable in time, parallel tracks, a child's stare, and then a woman slides her finger under her watch band, rubs over her wrist under the band. As the light changes, so too does the world underneath, a field of wires, what some call power. Along familiar paths of feeling, I taste the future I, what taste, not ash, ash. Blood seeps through to the other side. I don't believe in Satan exactly, but down the hall someone went dragging and grunting as though pulling a long bag. Times I almost text you, the weird in the trees, whose unmade remembrance in the station I wait for no one. All the memories are behind scaffolding, behind the door painted orange. A sign says to street, as though making a verb of a direction. But here, looped wires hang from the ceiling, an unremembered planing fills my heart, and the voices from the radio merge with inner voices. Shattered glass bordered by blue tape, sun-wrought web. And again today, Hildegard's vision of night arrived with night. The darkness grew and spread farther and farther across the air. What emptiness? Your voice on the phone against cloud-flung sky of blue, the blue of your mood. Unearthly screams. This is the point where earth and air from one another rend. Fog drifts. Edge of the world, they say. Edge of the weird. On the tracks stand waiting skeleton cars. One might imagine that they were bereft of cargo. Forms of emptiness. Forms and their emptiness. I put my breath into their empty forms. The moon splits into two moons, one brilliant against blue-black sky, the other a print, a film, a kiss. What strange effect of light, I love you. Mouthy clatter of eaves coursing excess, melt a warm cold rush in tingling air too suddenly bright. A ceramic goat wearing a red ribbon. My body absorbs changes in the degrees and types of air staleness. What we breathe circulates within us and without us, binds and unbinds us, a loose and impermanent loop. If we could see the air we share, see it in chords that make visible our interbreathing, what thick spun tapestry would pull us close? Stale the air I breathe, is not your air we could share, moon blue hair. On a winter green verge where sleeping became an ongoing careen, parting spirit from body, mutually unmaking forever. I don't believe in Satan exactly, but when I reached for the towel in the bathroom, half asleep, dry, crooked night fingers reached back. In the nightmare, he made everyone dress up, stand in a row, and watch. Death invades the skin, seeps in through rotting crevices. Before the biblical character of Satan was developed, mostly in accounts of Christ battling the devil, but also in apocalyptic Jewish literature written before the New Testament, it was understood that God created both good and evil. Isaiah chapter 45, verse 7. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. Where worship slept and fell on a verge between spirit and receding spirit. From turbulence, what? What emptiness? Sometimes the visionary epiphany is a simple one, night. And I saw cops taking photographs of all the protesters. Oh, green vigor of the swinging gun. O green vigor of the belt and the bulletproof vest, O vigor of the visor, and O green vigor of the polycarbonate riot shield. With each one who stops to read the sign, I fall in love. You said, I'm high on you, and it meant something. The baby cries louder and louder, the witch in the trees. The word worms through the blood-thick wound flesh of my human brain. An illuminated grid falls aslant into this world from another one. World, what? The sky. With silence you filled me, or with you I am filled with silence. Wreaths around lampposts, my breath interwreathes in air with my walkers, my momentary companions in a haze. And then you find you never knew each other anymore, like how easy it would be to fall apart in this falling apart. The stupid things we wanted, like to live a good life. The man on the street is falling apart, and everyone pretends not to see. Exhaust exhalations. The concept of divine providence suggests that from evil, God will always bring forth good. I cannot find, among the ill spring that brings forth buds into time gone wrong, among plastic dumps and ongoing war, among institutionalized racism and refugees arrested or turned away, part or even haphazard recompense. Whatever beauty populates a day seems sinister against the world, the withering world, like how my glass creates a pattern, diamond shapes among shadow, each lined with a barely perceptible rainbow, or how I heard your voice in a dream, as clear as though you spoke to me in life, or how the smell of some neighbor cooking returns to me a memory from infancy, stumbling beside you barefoot along a pebble path. It is not enough, O God, to ward off death, and to God I say, it is not enough to ward off the spread of death. But Milton was already following these labyrinths, when in the voice of his Satan, he fashioned two rhetorical snail shells and set them opposite one another on pentameter's smooth tessellated surface. If then his providence out of our evil seek to bring forth good, our labor must be to pervert that end, and out of good still to find means of evil. And later, evil be thou my good. The second and more compressed version draws the two wound shells close into one wound interwound, so that good and evil each breathe the other's breath. Impossible to tell whose exhalation condenses damp on whose hot cheek. You said the word reverie, and a sound of wings charged the air. What shining in windows glare-brimmed glass? And I saw the sunlight drench the people around us in a dreamy haze, turn the graffiti on the brick walls into shining half-formed prophecies, and elevate us both in mutual wonder. The train rushes over the highway by means of a magical bridge. I was given a word in my dream, but how do I define this word, and when should I use it, and to whom? Empty time all the time, the wand in the trees, shadows and light flashing, running down the length of the train. I looked at my mother looking into every window, couldn't catch her eye. A superstition grows on me like moss, lichen, like anancy of the world. I believe the woods spoke, silent, sentient. Empty me as we empty. Away goes where you go. If our bodies sit side by side on the train, our spirits roam elsewhere, otherwhere, babbling air. From outside, I see a bird in the office building, flapping black silhouette in yellow square glare. John Donne understood that the gaze is a physical thing, running a long string like beads. Our eye beams twisted and did thread our eyes upon one double string. Bruce R. Smith says that for Donne, ecstasy is not being outside the body altogether, but is rather the sensation of the body from a perspective outside the body. Beam forth light, our looking a feeling of inside, outside, revel in this radiance, this basking twine of eyes. The flashing siren in the rear view was, in fact, I realized, dawn's tiny hot sun breaking through trees and over the lake. Into an unmaking wake, the loose thread left over after you look away. I slept with my book open, woke into strange thoughts, pen in hand. Thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you, Claire. That was wonderful. Congratulations on and Jennifer and Dan, thank you both also for your readings, which were lovely as well. And thank you so much for being here to celebrate with Claire. To those of you who joined us, thank you. Thanks for being with us today. Sorry we can't, of course, congregate in person to celebrate, but hopefully we can do that in the nearest future. In the meanwhile, please be well and stay safe. And I hope you all have a good end of the year. And that you can join us for some of our events at the start of the year. Yeah, thank you again, and congratulations to you again, Claire. Thanks for being here. Take care, everyone.